It is May 2021. You're watching this report. There are hundreds of thousands of different human cultures that have existed over the past several thousand years. Most of these cultures are remembered through artifacts, stories, and sometimes ruins. But one particular culture has captured the imaginations of many people throughout the ages. This culture had developed a writing system and a calendar that was eerily accurate in its predictions. Yet this culture seemed to have vanished overnight. There are many theories about what happened to them, but no one really knows. And that's why this is the story of a lost civilization. This is the story of the Maya. The Maya were a Mesoamerican civilization known for their art, architecture, and astronomical knowledge. According to some sources, they may have numbered over 10 million people at their peak. The Maya civilization spanned across present-day Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, El Salvador, and Honduras. They inhabited a region known as the Maya area, which contains the major centers of the southern lowlands, the central area, and the northern Yucatan Peninsula. The Maya began as a collection of small independent city-states, each ruling themselves and often fighting with one another. But sometime around the year 250 AD, the Maya started working together more often. This era is known as the Classic Maya period, which lasted until the 9th century AD. It was during this time that the Maya built grand cities and impressive monuments. They also developed a complex writing system and made astounding discoveries in astronomy. Many believe the Maya were some of the greatest astronomers in the ancient world. They kept detailed records of celestial bodies and even predicted eclipses with accuracy. But other than their love for astronomy, not much is known about their culture. Most of what we know comes from artifacts and ruins found within their borders. Some say there may have been great libraries filled with books and scrolls, but those buildings were never located, nor were any written documents ever recovered. As such, much of their history is a complete mystery. But the Maya did leave behind a lot of physical evidence, including temples, pyramids, and statues. Their monumental architecture was constructed with limestone blocks, steep-sided pyramids with flat tops, and large palaces with ornate decorations. Some of the most notable sites include Tikal, Palenque, and Bonampak. But it wasn't all just temples and pyramids. The Maya had highly skilled craftsmen who created jewelry, pottery, and sculptures with incredible detail. They carved massive stone heads with lifelike expressions and intricate patterns. They wove textiles with vibrant colors and created ornaments with precious metals. The Maya also had a complex social structure that was organized into a hierarchy. At the top of the pyramid was the king, who was considered divine. Below him were nobles, priests, merchants, artisans, and finally, commoners. The Maya had a strong economy based on agriculture and trade. They farmed crops such as maize, beans, and squash, and raised animals like turkeys and dogs. They traded goods with other civilizations such as the Aztec and the Inca. Despite their accomplishments and cultural richness, the Maya civilization suddenly collapsed. By the 9th century, most of the major cities were abandoned, and the population declined dramatically. This event is known as the Classic Maya collapse. So why did the Maya civilization collapse? No one knows for sure. But archaeologists have proposed several theories. One theory is that the Maya collapse was caused by a drought. The evidence for this is based on tree ring data, which shows that there was a period of severe drought in the Yucatan Peninsula around the year 800 AD. This drought lasted for about 20 years, and it may have caused widespread crop failures and famine. The drought theory is supported by the fact that the Maya abandoned their cities and migrated elsewhere. Another theory is that the collapse was caused by warfare. The Maya were known to be fierce warriors, and they often went to war with each other. Some historians believe that a series of wars and conquests led to the decline of the Maya. But there is no evidence that any one group conquered all of the others. So it's unlikely that this theory can explain the collapse of the entire civilization. Another theory is that the collapse was caused by a natural disaster, such as a hurricane or an earthquake. but there is no geological evidence to support this claim. A recent study suggests that the collapse was caused by prolonged periods of intense heat and drought. Lead author Kyle J. Brown of the University of Texas said the team's research indicates that rather than a single decisive factor, a combination of both climatic variability and long-term anthropogenic impacts drove the collapse of the classic Maya civilization. Brown and his team used cave formations known as stalagmites to reconstruct past climates. Stalagmites form when water seeps into caves and leaves behind mineral deposits. By analyzing the chemical composition of stalagmites, researchers can determine the temperature and rainfall in a given year. Brown and his colleagues collected samples from 2 caves in Belize and analyzed the stalagmites that formed between the 8th and 10th centuries AD. Their results showed that there were several droughts during this time period, but the most severe drought occurred between 832 and 843 AD. This drought lasted for 12 years, and it was the longest and most intense of the millennium. Brown says the findings suggest that prolonged intense heat may have played a role in the collapse of the classic Maya civilization, according to history. Brown's hypothesis is plausible. From 800 to 900 AD, various Maya centers experienced severe droughts, which likely contributed to crop failure and famine. However, the Maya weren't the only ones suffering from the changing climate. Other Mesoamerican societies like the classic Aztecs also faced challenges during that time. Why did the Maya collapse while others survived? Brown notes that the Maya were already vulnerable due to increased militarization and growing inequality. He told History that a lot of political instability was happening in the last centuries before the civilization fell apart. Under such circumstances, groups that suffered from crop failure would have been in a worse position. If the worst-hit areas were already politically unstable, they would have been more vulnerable and likely to collapse. But as fascinating as these theories are, none of them really answer the main question: where did they go? The Maya didn't just disappear into thin air. They left behind extensive networks of roads and settlements. Millions of people couldn't just pick up and move without leaving behind any trace. So what happened to them? Did they integrate with other cultures? Did they flee to other regions? Or did they simply vanish? Sadly, there is no way to know for sure. Sometime after the 9th century, the Maya did re-emerge, but they were no longer a powerful civilization. They were now a collection of small independent groups who spoke different languages and had different customs. These groups were known as the post-classic Maya, and they lasted until the Spanish conquest in the 16th century. The post-classic Maya were still culturally rich, and they continued to practice some of the traditions of their ancestors. But they were no longer a major force in the region. So what happened to the Maya? Where did they go? Why did they disappear? These questions may never be answered, but the mystery only adds to the allure of their culture. The Maya were a highly advanced civilization who made significant contributions to mathematics, astronomy, and art. But their sudden collapse remains a puzzle. For archaeologists, their disappearance is a reminder of the fragility of human civilization and the power of nature. The Maya are gone, but their legacy lives on. Their achievements continue to inspire awe and wonder, and their story continues to captivate those who seek to understand them. Thanks for watching.